Welcome to my channel. Click subscribe. Hello everyone, it's Ivy again. Welcome back to my channel. So if you're just new here, please click subscribe and we'll try to discover things that you never know. Previously, I discussed the topic how to apply student visa. So I promised that in my previous video, I'm going to discuss some informations like the behavioral requirements, health requirements, different types of the leveling here in Australia, and different topics like what to bring and not to bring in the airport once you've received already the student visa. So maybe at first I've checked some of the informations in the immigration home affairs. There are some very important and significant and relevant informations that I should discuss to you right now. So but basically we'll just recall with the topics I didn't discuss in the previous video I had. So we'll discuss the health requirements required by the Australian government, by the immigration. So basically with the health requirements, so Australian government is very strict. So they really want to ask you to provide a certain health requirements to prevent the health threat for the residents here and citizens here in Australia before you provide or you've been accepted for the Australian student visa. So they might assess your health as part of the visa application processes. So not everyone who's applying for a student visa needs to undergo with the health requirements, especially those who had their medical record for 12 months. So you can check on that with the details on the immigration subclass 500. So who needs the health examination? There are different levels like ages who needs to have the health examination. So it depends whether you're coming from different countries that they had the very tight health background. So especially with the different countries like Africa, like India, China, those very common with the red flag for tuberculosis or hepatitis B, HIV. So it depends what country you're coming from. If you're low risk of these conditions like tuberculosis and the conditions that I've mentioned to you, so you'll be safe from not having health examinations. But if you're in the country coming from the high risk level of these conditions, then you need to provide the medical examination, chest x-ray, if you're over 11 years old. And if you have been here already in Australia for the last 28 days, Australian government is very strict for that. So they want you to undergo the medical requirement for you to be assessed if you're positive or negative for those health conditions. In some instances, in some situations, you need to provide more tests, like if you had the history of tuberculosis, so you need to provide furthermore period of tests like chest x-rays just to clear out that your lungs are okay, especially in your x-ray results. So others, they provide hepatitis and syphilis tests and hepatitis B, HIV. So you need to provide the health requirements that is required by the Australian government. So you can check and log in with your immigration account, and then it depends with the visa that you're applying and how long you will stay here in Australia for the long period of your study period, and what country are you from. So you need to log in with your immigration account. So they will check in there if you need to provide certain informations, like they will say there that visa health assessment, and then you'll just click on the application status, and if you really need the health examinations given by the Australian government, so they will link the organized health examinations and if you don't receive the link, like there will be no link, you don't need to provide the health examinations. So if you've been given the link, you need to click on the link and then complete the medical history. So after that, when you completed the medical history, you will be given a referral letter, like to do the medical examination, so that you can check on your country where you came from with the medical referral, and then just click on the certain providers that is accredited by the Australian government. So it's be very careful for that, because only few institutions or health clinics that only approved by the Australian government. So yeah, that's it. So if your case officer will contact you and you need to provide further more health examinations, like because with the different ages, like from the age of 10 to 12, there are different health examinations that you need to undergo. But with from 15-year-old and above, just provide the medical examinations, HIV test, and the x-ray. Those are the only important things that you need to provide. Others, they need to provide urinalysis, stool, and other than that, that's all. But I have read in the Immigration Home Affairs, if you're coming from Norway, Sweden, you don't need to provide health examinations. So you can just check on the immigration the list of the countries that are low risk of tuberculosis, and if you're in the high risk of tuberculosis, then expect that you need to provide those medical examinations and health examinations that the immigration are requiring you. So let's just proceed with the behavioral requirements. So with the behavioral requirements, they ask you to provide the character requirements like police check, international police check. At the some instances, like you need to pass the character test and remain in a good character. So it depends with the visa that you need to provide. So to meet the requirements for the character requirements, so if you may not pass the character requirements in some instances, this include if you have the substantial criminal record, if you have been convicted or escaping from immigration detention and convicted for an offense that you have committed, and you have been a member of organization in your country that, of course, they committed crime or it's against the law. So if you have the past or present criminal record, then of course, I'm so sorry, you won't be granted for student visa. But if you can defend for your clearance that you've been already got the bail and you've settled your criminal records, then you'll just provide those documents that they will need so that you will be granted for your student visa. So they're very strict here. They don't want you to commit more crimes here in Australia. So when you're applying for a student visa, you need to declare that you have not engaged in any criminal conduct records. So, and you truthfully answer all the questions in your immigration checklist, and you provided the requested information to meet the behavioral requirements. So in some instances, they've considered some of the cases, but even if you don't meet their character requirements, or the Minister of Home Affairs can choose to grant your visa. So if you're lucky, then definitely they will just grant your visa. So after apply for the student visa, so you need to provide the police certificate, like you need to provide the statutory declaration that coming from the police station, or you need to provide the military certificate if you've joined the military before, and you can just provide a letter of good conduct from your employer that you had the good standing from your employment before you apply for student visa here in Australia. So that's it. So I think I need to add and discuss some of the very brief and very important things that you need to know when you're applying for your student visa. So with the changes in this 2019 up to 2020 June, so it will be effective. So there are some additional informations that I need to discuss to you. So of course, with the processing times, it now changes, it varies, because with the processing times, they've already included if you're in the postgraduate award sector or in your non-award sector, or if you have already got the package courses, that which I had before. So usually for the foreign affairs defense sector, they will approve 75% is 12 days and 90% are 20 days. So for the postgraduate sector, they gave like the processing is 75% each 63 days and 90% are 5 months. For the non-award sector, it's 75% in 4 days and 90% 13 days. For the school sector, so it's 75%, it's 61 days, or most probably 90%, it's 4 months. So with the independent ELICOS sector, most probably 75% is 27 days and 90% is 42 days. For the VET courses or vocational educational training sector, 45 days is the 75% processing times and 90% are 73 days. So it took longer, unlike for me, I received my visa for at least 3 weeks, but it depends now because they've been very strict, and then they try to reduce the application for student visa who's aiming to become a permanent resident here. So because that's what they're doing nowadays, some of the student visa, they're targeting for student visa to apply here in Australia, but after applying for the student visa, when they finish their school, they directly apply for permanent residence, because there is some instances that the students, they don't comply with the requirements that they've mentioned during their application visa. So if your application cannot take longer for the processing, then definitely if you do not fill in the correct informations and if you don't include all the documents, so it will take longer. For the assessment leveling to apply student visa here in Australia, it's very negligible to majority of the genuine students applying for student visa here in Australia. They are providing slight change to approach immigration officers to convince them that they're really genuinely and they're legit to apply here in Australia. But that's why they've been very strict for the genuine temporary entrant requirements that Australian government is requiring. So under the GTE requirement, the student must satisfy the conditions that the genuine intention to stay here in Australia is only temporary, not for permanent residency. So with the profile of the student, so they need to provide the statement of purpose and then, or it's so-called genuine temporary entrant statement. It is the key for you to be approved for your student visa. So nowadays the GTE requirement applies to all visa applicants. So when they're assessing your genuine temporary requirement, the DHA or the Department of Home Affairs of Australia, they will consider the requirements set to have a direction in the section number 69. So to assess, they will consider first the following assessments. Number 1, the circumstances of yours. So your background. It includes your education background, your family income, and your employment. So, or your visa history. So if you've traveled also in the different countries, it's very important to provide those informations. It's very critical, especially with the financial income you need to provide already. This is the changes applied this 2019 just recently. So then you need to provide the 12-month period that you can able to fund yourself for the 12-month period, provide your expenses, and you're able to pay for your tuition fee for those 12 months. And for the financial requirements for Australian student visa, they need to provide enough money that's genuinely available to pay for the courses fee, for the travel, and then living costs while they're staying here in Australia, or if they even accompany the family members where they're studying here in Australia. So number one option, the applicant must be able to demonstrate providing the following financial requirements. The number one option is to provide the evidence of funds to cover the travel in Australia, and you need to provide a 12-month cost of living in the course, and for the age dependents or the schooling cost for the student or accompanying family members. And number two option, they need to provide the evidence that they meet the annual income requirement. If you've studied here in Australia, if you already have the evidence for the annual income requirement, like for 12 months, you just provide the bank statement or bank certificate, then definitely they will grant your visa. Number three is you just provide any other relevant matter. Like if someone is sponsoring you, like your auntie, your uncle, if they have the businesses, they just need to provide those financial income or financial cost, or their bank statements, or their business, or their property documents, so that it will help to strengthen your application for your student visa. To give you a brief background for the 12 months fund option, like I have mentioned a while ago, it's give you the a range of 12-month living cost here in Australia. For students, it's 20,209, and if you have your partner or your spouse or your de facto, then for the living cost is 7,100, and if you bring your child, it's 3,040. So for the travel cost, you'll just provide 2,000 for your ticket coming here in Australia. In addition to that, I'll just include the acceptable evidences for the financial requirements that I mentioned to you, like the money deposit in the financial institution, bank statements, bank certificate. If you have a loan from financial institution or government loans, or if you've been funded by the government, you need to provide those financial requirements, or also with the bank statements or the annual income option, like pay slips, how much you're earning in your country. The annual income option requires the applicant to provide the personal information as much as possible, cost $60,000. The income demonstrated must be the personal income from student parents or aunties, uncles, sponsors, business partners coming from with the student. Like if the evidence must be coming from the official government documents, so the tax assessment must be provided, so in the form of bank statements. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, we'll discuss some informations I want to discuss. Just click the link below. Please click and subscribe. Stay tuned with me. Comment down below if you want to ask some of the informations, and we'll research on that, and we'll see you in 1 week.